Hi there, this is Bob. It's Monday, and I thought I'd do a video for everybody after a lot of work's been done lately on the menus. And I just wanted to show some of the improvements and also some of the things that ChartSmart does that you probably don't know about. Just so you know that there's a lot behind just the charting and screening that you see. Um, it it uh, it just keeps evolving. So I'm going to go right in here. First, I just want to remind you this auto update enabled option is kind of nice because when you start ChartSmart, it'll automatically do your data update for you. So you probably know that, but I'm going to turn that off for now. Now I'm going to go in here, and you'll probably see this today. It's a menu that discusses some of the plans, and you can turn this off if you want with this option down here. And some of those pop-down menus you see, you can actually go into display and miscellaneous display settings, and this is where you can turn them on. Okay, now I do have on a new feature with the upgrade here, and it's the bottom number 18. When clicking the mouse on the screen, normally you see a red vertical line, but you'll also get a horizontal. So let's try that. I'm just going to maybe get a chart of IBM. Okay, and I'll just click here, and you'll see that as I click, I'm getting actually a crosshair now. So that's an option in the new version if you upgrade, just by going to Help and About ChartSmart and doing these two things. This one, then this one. Takes about 10 seconds. So I'm just going to go back there for now and turn that off. So then it would just do the horizontal, or the vertical, sorry. Okay, and we had a subscriber ask for that, and if you have things you'd like, we'll try to put them in depending on how hard they are to put in, and just what they can do to help everybody. So let's take a look at some of the menus here. First, I'm going to look at some of these menus under maintenance, and some of them look similar. You'll notice they're a little bigger, okay, and we've made it so they're a little easier to read. And under here, for example, we've also made them a little more appealing. We've got the blue box in the upper right, and this is the area where you can actually export historical data. For example, you could choose ASCII delimited. I'm right-clicking here, and choose various formats, and then you could choose a directory to save it. Okay, and then I could choose the date format. I'll just leave it there, and I can choose the symbol that was just viewed, or I can actually do the whole filtered list that I was just looking at. So if I export the above symbol, let's see what happens. So it's in there, and I'll go into Windows Explorer, or actually File Manager it should be, and there's the file. So this can be used to export data to other tools or for analysis that you might do. If I look at my last filter list, you can see I have 7 stocks here. I could actually go in here and go export historical data, export your filter list. Let's see what happens here. Okay, it's actually got 19, so I don't know if I got the right filter list, but there we go. So I'm not sure exactly why that did all those stocks. Oh, it's because that was actually my filtered list. Okay, so that's what is in was in here. If I had gone ZWatch and gone View Charts, okay, and then put that in my filtered list, and then I did it. Whoop. Sorry, I know I'm going fast, and this is going to be just a quick video to show some of the things that can be done. So I'm going to go back in that folder and take out the files. And Let's do this again and see what we get. Okay, there we go. You see we have 7, and we've got those specific 7s in that watch list. So whichever symbols you have in your filtered list, you can export the historical data, or you could do the daily data. I just don't have any daily files here, and you can actually drag the fields that you want to include or not. Okay, so that's just one of the areas, and we've improved the menus there. Another thing you might not know is that you can reduce ChartSmart on your screen. So for example, right now it's the equivalent of 1.6 times 640 by 480. If you have really high resolution, yours might say 2.25. So if I want, I could change this to say 1.2. Okay, and I restart ChartSmart, and you can see that it takes up a smaller amount of my screen. Okay, so I'll continue and continue. You don't want to go too small, or some of the menus might be a little bit too big. And I'll go back to maintenance and screen size emulation and switch it to full screen. Okay, this is especially helpful if you have really high resolution. Okay, just one of the things you probably don't know about, I'm just sort of going through here randomly to show some of the stuff that is in here. Let's keep going under maintenance. Exporting symbols. Here's another one that you can actually, if you can see in this box here, that's the format that we have. And these are formulas that allow you to export to a different format. So for example, I could choose this one, and I could actually make formulas to do that. So you can actually tailor the symbols to match the symbols of another software tool you might be exporting to, so that way you could export your watch list. So for example, let's take this one where it trims off our exchange codes. I could simply copy my watch list, which was 7 as you remember, to my clipboard. Okay, and if I go look at my clipboard now, and I'll just do that in Notepad, and I go Control V, there you can see I have the symbols. Pretty simple and pretty neat. Okay, so that's just another one of the features. This is interesting. The news is a little more complicated, but these you'll notice that in the Canadian news, especially if I look at a stock that's at that one originally, GEM, we look at a daily chart, you can see that there's these colored bars, and those are news releases. They're a little hard to click on, but if I click on it, you can see there's the news release. And these ones are red because I believe their headline has the word private placement in them. I'm not sure. Yeah, there's the there it is. Okay, so, and this is because it has options. And so if you're looking for news releases that have certain information, you can identify them on the chart pretty quickly. So I know this will get a little complicated, but it's all very interesting stuff, and it kind of just shows how broad ChartSmart is. So if I go in here, I can actually change the color of the news bars and the name. So for example, I could change stock split to a different color, like blue, or no, let's take magenta here. Okay, and if I go update headlines, it will tell me how many headlines in the news have that magenta line, and if I'm right, there you can see that they switched to magenta. So you can customize the color. We'll put that back to red because it's nice and bright, and you can also do it with the US news. But the Canadian one, things like private placements and options being issued often are done before low price stocks that are consolidated start to move up in the juniors. ChartSmart was originally tailored more towards the junior penny stocks in Canada, so it's got all these powerful features. It also has mega features for blue chip stocks. Like if I take IBM, for example, and I look at a weekly chart, these 5 lines in the bottom tell the whole story. Because you can see on the right it says PE ratio, operating revenue, cash, dividends, EPS. So you can see on IBM over the last 3 years the red line has been going down and they've been making less money. And the revenue, the black line, has dropped off at the end of 2021. Their blue line, the dividend, has continued up pretty good but stopped going up. So, you wonder. And you can get this information here. If you look at the PD5 button, we've got a nice display. We've redone this a bit so it looks a little better, and you see we've got the last 9 years. So if we look at the revenue, we actually will see this drop in revenue. It went up to 80 and then it went down to 77 and it's come down, and there's been a dramatic drop in 2022. I'm not sure what that's all about. But IBM must have had kind of a bad year. I can look at the last quarters. It looks like the last quarter is the first quarter they've actually lost money. Maybe they did a write-off or something like that. So that's kind of interesting. So, using these various lines in the bottom, which are dictated by the indicators tab under fundamentals, you can have all kinds of colored lines, and you can set the colors depending on what you want to look at and the trend on the chart. Something you probably didn't know. Let's go on a little further. Here's something. You know how to do a backup. You back up a custom data. You should always do this. You go back up and then you choose, hopefully you can find a USB and put your backup on there. But we actually have another backup system which is automatic, and that's under the bottom called emergency backup. And what happens is, if you look at the files here, you can see the times on them and the dates, and they are created every time you start ChartSmart. So you can actually go back 15 times since you started ChartSmart, and you can restore your data. So for example, if you made a huge mistake and you did something bad and you could get back, you could actually choose going back to a certain time, and you could restore from there, which is another feature that can help out. Now we'll go further. Let's go over to display. These are kind of neat, the custom formulas that you can put on the screen. I think I did a video on that because some people have a little trouble seeing the name on the top. And what you can do is you can write something, you can choose a variable, and I'm going to choose the one that's for company name, and I know that that is, and you surround it by a number sign, is called just name. Okay, so if I close and refresh the chart, you're going to see IBM, company name equals IBM written on there. And if I take that out, and you can do this with 2, okay, I can just take that out, and there we go, we're back. So again, I'm just kind of going through here randomly, lists of stock, which lists a list that the stock is a component of. It's in various lists in the filter menu. It can be in your watch list, it can be in a portfolio, it can be custom lists, it can be indices. And if you look at the chart with these on, you will see a little box come down, and it will actually tell you various lists that it exists in. Okay, so and we can expand our lists to make it so that if there's important lists, you would know that it's a part of that. Okay, we've quickly gone through display. I'm going to go through tools, and I can't help but think that this is a really neat feature, this annotations and trend lines. And really, so the menu is totally different now, and you can do a trend line is in the upper left. You can do a text box. You can do Fibonacci, which I'm not sure if anyone does that too much anymore, but certainly a text box is nice to add. So if I wanted to add a text box, first of all, what I could do is make this little button bigger. So I'm going to do that, make it 10, so we can see a little better, and I'm going to add. And that little button was this. It's a little bigger at 10, and I can drag this over here, say, where this big drop was, and don't worry about it. Every time I move it, it leaves a little bit of a shade. I can say big drop due to, I don't know. Okay, I'm just writing something. But what will happen is, if I refresh the chart, where was it here? It was on the weekly chart. So this will always show up until you right click and delete it. Okay, so under annotations too, of course, you can do trend lines. And what I find interesting is, here's a trend line here, and let's say I went through a whole bunch of start charts and I put trend lines in, and I really just wanted to know when they dropped through a descending trend line. So this one might go down, it might not, but let's say I had 100 stocks where I put trend lines on them, and this is for chartists that used to use books maybe. If I go back to tools, annotations, and trend lines, there's actually an option to screen to find stocks that are broken below my ascending trend line, and that's an ascending trend line. So if I screen, I should get nothing. Okay, so there's one line and I got nothing. But watch this. If I move this, let's pretend that it was tomorrow and this actually went down below the trend line. Okay, so if I went here, did I do that right? Stocks breaking above, I think I chose the wrong one. Below your, breaking below your ascending trend lines. Okay, let's do this on a daily chart here. Let's see what I've done wrong here. To screen to find all stocks that have broken below your ascending trend lines, above your descending trend lines. I think there might be something backwards here, but you can see the point. I have to check this. I'm not going to redo the video because now you know it's live, but basically this is saying your screen for stocks breaking below ascending trend line is complete. It found one. So I think the wording is just reversed. The wording on the left should be, these could be reversed, and that's a pretty simple thing which we'll fix. I think that's what it is. So anyway, if you had 100, you could run this every day and you could see that maybe 22 had just gone down below your line. The other thing is you can just simply view all charts that have annotations by going here, and then you can scroll through them. Okay, so we'll go over here and they're in the watch list, and then of course I can scroll through them and turn off the annotation if I want. Okay, let's keep going. In the Canadian news, this feature, which we've added the symbol on the far right, is a way to see all the stocks. There are 176 in the Canadian news on the current date, or on the last date this was done, and you can change the date if you like, and you can double click. So if I go Algoma Central, I could go there and get to the chart immediately. Okay, so you can actually see which stocks are in the news, and that's not much different than the summary button, which gives the news for a company. But what you'll notice new is if I go to, say, that one gem and I click on the summary button, we have all the news releases in the bottom, but we also have like shared phone, which was there before, but we have placements. So you can see in the bottom, it's sort of taken out of the news all the private placements that have been done fairly recently, and the options and so on. And by the way, you can change the font size in the box however you wish, right there. And let's keep going here. Filter arrow alerts. You've got all the different indicators, but this is kind of interesting. These are standard formulas for crossovers. Like here's a relative strength index filter. Here's a MACD where there's a crossover, increasing volume alert, and you can see the 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the left. Well, what happens when I turn this on? I think it only applies to daily charts, but I'll go to a daily here, and you can see here it actually put a number 3 here, which was an up increasing volume alert, which surprisingly it actually went up after that, which maybe I shouldn't say surprisingly, but let's take a look at a more active chart like IBM and see how this fares. So you see these little alerts go on here, and you know that this was the MACD crossover going down, and this was the MACD, or this was the I think the MACD going up because it's number 2, and this number 4 was a Bollinger Band breakout from the 10-week high. So these can be interesting, and it's hard to believe you can actually customize your own alerts to match the formulas that you create, which is under tools, and that's an even more complex thing under the filter alert manager. And that's what these little bars are in the middle. You can actually create formulas and get these bars in the charts indicating when your screen actually occurred and what happened after your screen. So that's sort of related to back testing. So I know this is getting complicated, but we're going to turn this off. It's more about showing that ChartSmart's more than just a charting and screening tool. Okay, now let's go into the filter menu, which has been changed a bit, and I'm just going to go in and make a filter set. Okay, and we'll close this, and you can see the menus are a lot nicer now, and I'm going to add a new filter set and just call it Bob. Okay, now I'm going to choose stocks on Toronto and the Canadian Venture Exchange, and we'll take the Canadian Exchange, the CSE, since that's brand new. Now, of course, we have all these other screens. We can go to the sector, the type, the price range, the volume. This one I always find interesting is this percent of the 30 days it's traded. That's kind of handy because then you get rid of all the thin trading ones if you don't want them. So if I ran that, for example, and I run the screen, okay, out of 1600 I get 2750. Okay, so I go to group and I'm going to take a look. It looks like I still have the filter alerts on. I thought I'd turn those off. I did not. There we go. Okay, now so I've run a screen. I got those Canadian stocks that have been quite active. Okay, so you're not going to see any super thin traders. Now if I I'll leave that in there. And there's all kinds of really nice screens here for breakouts in volume and so on. And of course you have all the technical indicator crossovers and so on, which you often do in conjunction with putting those same indicators on the screen. For example, if you were looking for ones that break through their Bollinger 10-day lower band, you put a 10-day Bollinger on your charts, and then you can sort of screen it and you can see them happening. Under the fundamentals, of course, you've got a host of possible different things, balance sheet items and so on. And another thing you can do is in your watch list you can actually screen out stocks in your watch list and then subscreen them. For example, you could say I want stocks in my New York stocks I'm monitoring, which there are only 7, but I want them to be over $40. And then that would become another screen. So you can do screens on your lists. Okay, but let's go further. Now, another thing I can do is I'm looking at these 3 Canadian exchanges, but I could say which ones are components of the TSX Global Index, which is, I guess, an index 33. Okay, so these are a part of one of the indices that the TSE puts out. They're sub components of it. And I could put this in my filter list, and I could also make a watch list of it. I think that I clicked the wrong button. But you can actually take your filtered list when you run a filter and immediately put it into a watch list. So I'm not going to do that. We'll just go close and go to group and begin scrolling. So we know that whatever the criteria were, this is these stocks, these 33 stocks, are also components of that gold index. Okay. Now I'm sorry I'm going so fast. It's a lot of information. I'm just going to get to another thing. So we've got, you could do like which ones are constituents of tier 2 venture stocks. Obviously none of the Toronto or Canadian ones would be. So go to custom. You could say, well, I want to look for ones that are cannabis companies or COVID or crypto, and we create these ourselves out of the news releases. So these are estimates of companies that are in these sectors. So for example, if I were to say I just want to look at venture stocks and CSE stocks that are traded over 30% in the last 30 days, or 80% over the last 30 days. That's what I had there. Percent of the last 30 days over 80. I could go in here to the criteria, and I could go to the custom, and I could say I just want cannabis ones, and let's see what we get. Okay, now you saw that little red line. That's a new thing too, but here we go. Let's look at the list, and it has all venture stocks right now. So let's just leave it at that. And I'll take that one out, and we'll just rerun this. Okay, and we should get, as you can see, we're getting both venture and stocks that are on the Canadian exchange. Okay, 1,151 in all that are fairly active. So, okay. You're probably ready to go to sleep, but I'm going to show you something else that I think is really neat. Okay, and that's under the special tab, and I've been doing a lot of work on this. So we try to keep up all the name changes and the new listings and so on. And what I'm going to do is take these stocks and just click this, and you see our new listings menu is a lot cleaner. And I could say I just want to look at new listings between September of 2022, say September 21st. And if I put in a number this high instead of today, I could just put in today, which is, I think, around the 6th, I'd be guessing. About 158 days. And if I run this screen, okay, watch the bottom, bang. There you go. It's from September, and if I scroll down, these are all the stocks. But you'll notice there's NASDAQ ones. They're all over the place that have been new listings. Okay, that's because this covers the whole spectrum. Now, when we go here and we run the filter, though, it will run it based on these other 3 things, saying, okay, we're going to get all the new listings that are on the venture, the Canadian exchange, in that period, and that they trade this much. So we have to run this. Now it takes longer to do these types of screens, so that's why you'll see the red line. Okay, and then it does the rest. Okay, so if I close and go to group, let's take a look at some of these. There's ARWYCE, and that blue dotted line is a new listing line. So I'll go forward, forward. Okay, and these were all listed in the last whatever period I said, since in September 1st. Pretty neat. Now, some people like to look for stock splits or consolidations. And if I go in here, I can look at name changes. And we have another new menu that's quite nice. And you can see in here there's some symbols. But what we can do is say, since we're looking at Canadian stocks, we're just going to look at consolidations. Okay. And we've got the same date here, which is fine. And let's run this and see what we get. Okay, so again, we've got the entire universe. We've got New York and NASDAQ, but there are a few Canadian ones here. And we're looking at consolidations here. Okay, if you were looking at bigger stocks in the US, you might look for stock splits. If you can see if we do that, you'll see the numbers in the middle, how they change. Whoops, sorry, I didn't click any. Let's do stock splits. You can do any mix. So you can see the number change from is bigger than the number that it went to. So it's a split. The consolidation is the reverse. It's like a reverse split where this one went from 1 share, or 100 shares got converted to 1 share. So let's go ahead and run this with the same stuff. Okay, so we'll run this. Okay, and there we go. We get 31. We'll go close and go to group. And here you go. You see the CO, which tells us that it's a consolidation. Okay, so what's interesting is that you can also see that after the consolidation there's some red lines, which means they did private placements, which is not uncommon after they do the consolidation, especially if it's stock at a low price. In fact, this one, say CODCE, we can see that there's a yellow bar, which means they probably issued options right after they consolidated it. So you see they announced today, they canceled the options to insiders, but I wouldn't doubt that you'll see them issue some new ones at the lower prices. So we can go through. And on that subject, you can actually go through and screen out for private placements and so on. So let's go back here to the special tab, and let's look at Canadian news release filters. Okay, so now you're probably getting the idea that maybe ChartSmart does more than what I thought it did, and it does. And if you have suggestions, let's add them if we can do it, and it's possible. So we have the news. Let's look at the headlines. Okay, so we can choose a headline and in the news. So right now, let's take private place. Okay, and as you know, the news bar, that's the news bar menu we saw before, is set to red. So what happens is if we run in this period, we'll do August to the future, which is only up to now, and we'll run that. Okay, and there we go, and you can see there's the list of all the headlines have private placement in them. Okay, we could for example instead use the word diamonds, and we can use our own diamonds. Okay, so let's run the headline, and we can see that we have diamonds here. Okay, so you can either take the ones that we've given you, or you can type in your own and do a search in the headline. Okay, let's try platinum. We press enter, and it goes in the search box in the bottom, and there we go, some various companies. Now let's take a look at these companies, and we need to go back now to our filter and run it, and we get 5 separate companies, and let's go through and take a look at them. Okay, now something you'll see is the news bars are extended. Okay, and if I click on one of these news bars, I don't even remember what we're looking for. I think it was platinum. That was in the, yeah, see, that's in the headline, the word platinum. So that is what these bars mean. We screened out these companies, and that blue bar extended means they had a headline that had the word platinum in it. Okay, so let's go back here, and I'm just going to leave this in a minute, but I want to show you that not only can you do that for the headlines, but you can also do it for the news releases. And so you can actually go through the entire content of the news release as opposed to the headline. I've shown you how it works. We don't need to go through that in any more detail. Okay, so you'd think I've shown you everything, but to be honest with you, I haven't even started. You can take and print charts like this down here in the filter menu. I can print a weekly and a daily chart on one page to a PDF, which is really neat. Okay, I've done this, and it'll go back, and if I want to look at it with my PDF viewer, I can just go view files and click on it, and it'll come up, I hope, and there it is. And you can see there's on the top the daily and the weekly with all the colored bars. So you see you could send this to somebody and show them the company if you wanted to do that. And you can even print chart. You can take your watch list, and if it had 100 charts in it, you could print 25 pages with 4 charts per page to PDFs, and that's under this option here. Okay, so now we're still in the filter menu. I'm going to just touch on another area. Okay, and that goes, we've covered all these kind of tabs and some of these, and this use specify is probably one of the more powerful tools. Okay, and what I'm going to do is change our criteria here and look at some of the bigger US stocks or US exchanges. So let's look at New York and NASDAQ and Amex. Okay, now let's go to use specify, and we got a couple that are made here, but this is current assets are greater than current liabilities, and I've made this. So let's click on that. What does that mean? Okay, there's a formula up here, and you can see it says TM current assets is greater than, and it's got these number signs around it. And you remember I showed you how that worked before with the displaying it on the chart with the name of the company. Similar. So these variables are customizable, and you can create your own formulas, and I've made a formula, a name up here which I can change, and the variables, if you want to get the variables, you can just click here and you can go to the web. Okay, and it'll bring up variables, and you can see there's the one I used for company name. Right now, it just so happens if I go down further, you'll see that the ones that I'm using now in that formula, I'm trying to go down to the balance sheet items, and I can't remember. I think it had current liabilities there, TM current liabilities and TM current assets. And let's go back here, and there they are. So you see, we've taken the variables and we're going to run this. So let's run this for those bigger companies, and so we've chosen it, and I'll run it. So I know there's about 8,000, 10,000 companies on those exchanges, but these are the ones that have 2,300 that have current liabilities over current, or current assets over current liabilities, which is pretty neat that you could do that. And I could, for example, put it in a watch list, and I could say strong companies. I'll just say that for the heck of it, so we can just take a look. So I accept, and it went to the watch list automatically, and you can see it's put the filtered list into the watch list. So any filtered list, when you create it, can go in your watch list. Okay, probably something you didn't know. Okay, but let's go back here. Okay, so I'm going to go even deeper into this and show you that you can make 50 custom calculated formulas, which like this one. And that if we go create formula, this is where we do it. If we make a mistake, it'll tell you. You see it says I'm not balanced there. So there are green buttons on this to help you learn. Now, here's an interesting thing. There's a ChartSmart formula database, which probably nobody knows about. And these are formulas that we've actually gone through and created that, let's take pattern 3-day bounce, okay? And this is the formula that's been created. And you can actually take that formula and paste it to the screen, okay? But you can see that there's a bunch of messages, and this is because you need backtest files. And you know, in this video I'm not even going to get into this because it's a matter of putting a number in the front of each variable, and it goes back and gets all the filters that were, you know, all the information that was done at that time. So if I want to run this, I need the close 2 days ago, and I need the low, the 365-day low 3 days ago. And when I go back, it'll actually tell me that I need to download these files. And if I download the backtest files, I can click this and it'll go ahead and do it. Okay, so again, this isn't about really teaching you anything. It's about showing you just how broad ChartSmart is and why it's so different than other software. It's just goes in so many directions and it can do so many things. So you see, I've got the variables that will allow me to run this. So if I go back here, I don't even know. You see, what I did is I actually changed the variables, and they're no longer current assets. I'd have to change the name to whatever that was called. Custom, I forgot what it was for. Okay, custom screen. Okay, it was one of the custom calculated lists, and I can change it. And then what I can do is take this out and add it again. Whoop, and there it is. So what I would be doing here now is on those Canadian stocks, running a filtered list on, as you can see, those variables are kind of going by, and I've actually found the New York and Nasdaq stocks. Whatever that screen was, that custom calculated list, I can begin scrolling through them. I just don't know what it was. Okay, so it looks like some kind of trend change. So that again was way in here, way down deep here under you specify, and we went in here and we went into here, and then we actually had a ChartSmart formula database, a list of these various things. And down here, if you're into candlesticks, we have all the candlestick patterns created. For example, a ladder bottom, and this is actually what it is. So you could do the same thing. You could paste that in and you could get the ladder and bottom, and then you could switch to candlestick charts. So you can see why I'm doing this video. Nobody knows this stuff, and it's so much work has gone into ChartSmart, and there are things in here that you might not expect it can do for you that you would like. So that's what I'm kind of showing you here. And there's just a lot more, okay, but I'm not going to get into that anymore. But if we go back here, probably the ultimate feature goes back to tools and these down here. Now you noticed I downloaded those backtest files, and you can see the backtest file downloader menu. This is a new menu, and these are special files, and I'm going to show you a sample. Display a sample backtest file. This will help you understand what it is. Okay, this is the file like a Excel spreadsheet, and down the left you can see all the symbols. Okay, probably 15,000, and you can see on the top we've got all these calculations done. Now these are backtest files, and there's calculations for every day going back 10 years, and so you can run a screen on this 5 days ago, 20 days ago, 15 days ago. So that means you can go back 30 days, run your screen, your screens that you created that you want to test, and compare. If you had like 5 screens you made, you could compare their performance over the last 10 days or 20 days or 30 days. And that's kind of what this is for. But it's also, as I mentioned before, it's also for this filter alert manager, which allows you to display these bars when your specific screens not only occurred today, but at different times that they occurred in the past, so you can look at the chart and see what happened after your formula or your screen was triggered. Okay, this normally doesn't apply to fundamental variables, it's more technical variables, but you can see it's quite complicated. But it can be very powerful, and at some point I may do webinars or videos on backtesting, and that's where we go next, is actually on backtesting. We looked at the downloader, we looked at the filter alert manager, and this is the backtesting of your filter sets. So for example, there's all these filter sets, and I only have one custom one, but let's look at them all, and I could actually go back a certain number of days. Okay, I only have a couple files here, but I could go back, say, 20 days, and then I could run a back test, and it would scan through all these things, give me your results. I don't even know what this is going to look like, okay, but it actually goes through the various filters. Okay, again, this is not to teach anything specific. This is just to show, hey, you mean it can do that? And it actually, this generated a return that was higher than the other ones. Whatever this was, New York stocks dropping over 20%, did better than these other screens based on whatever period I did it over, which I can't remember. So, okay, your head's probably hurting by now. Mine is. And I'm just going to go back to ground zero to the IBM chart. And leave it at that. Under help, by the way, there's our email address, and I've added a new link here for remote assistance. If you're ever stuck and you need some help, you go to this link and you click on Windows Download. That'll allow you to download this file, and it'll give you a 9-digit number, and then if you give that to us, we can access your computer and probably fix whatever you need. You know, we often have to do that, but we have to tell people where to go. The reason why we put this in here, and that's just gone in today, is to help with that. So that's a few things in ChartSmart. There's so many things that can be done, and it's got to be the most powerful, flexible screener, and because it's on your PC, it's so fast as compared to the internet, and you really can get a grip on things with your watch lists. By the way, in your watch lists, there's something else I wanted to compare watch lists. This is another interesting feature. If you have more than one watch list, like 10 of them, this feature will allow you to say, okay, I want to find what stocks are the same ones in my 10 stock list, 10 watch lists. I've made 10 watch lists. I like them all, but which stocks are in each watch list? Or I could say I've got 10 watch lists. They all have different stuff. I'd like to put them into one big watch list that has all of them in it. Okay, so I won't show you how, but that's just another thing. So you see, it's more than a screener. It's more than a charting program. It's an organizer and a manager. It's like you're the teacher, and there's 100 kids out there, and it allows you to keep tabs on everything and pull it together and manage it and organize it better. And of course, I showed you before these blue icons. If I choose my watch list, for example, New York, the 7 stocks, it's part of the trading day right now. If I click that on, you'll see the it go to Yahoo and actually get intraday information on these stocks, which is pretty neat. And on that note, going further, we can go to the one at the top. So if we're looking at IBM, we can get all kinds of information on it. And I'm just going to take some oddball stock, say on the CSE, DFC. Let's try that. And no, I can't. Let's try DTC, I think. Yeah, there. Defense Therapeutics. Okay. We go, what's that? Okay. We've got the news on the bottom, the bars, and we got the fundamentals we can look at, right? Oh, that's fine. But you can also go here. You can get all kinds of information on this. You can go to the company profile, which Yahoo has, and here's the information. It's up 8% today. Hurrah. This is where it's located, a detailed description. You're better off getting a detailed description here than us having to put it in the PC, you know, on your PC and change it. And so this connection to other sites helps a lot. You can even go to a chat room, for example, like CEO.ca will actually go to that site and you can see what other people are commenting about that specific stock. So, I'm going to close. The video ended up way longer than I thought it would, but I hope if you got this far that it helps show just what's gone into this product over the years, and as we bring it back into and reshape it and put out the next version, we'll call it version 5 or whatever this is going to be instead of 4.5. You know, it'll be really interesting to see where it all goes. So I'm going to end the video. Thanks for staying with it, and I hope it's been helpful, and I'm wishing you good investing. Thank you.